The immense, crystalline dome of the assembly hall thrummed with a low, resonant energy, the collective heartbeat of 1,000 sentient species. Light refracted through the colossal prisms that formed the structure, painting shifting constellations of color across the polished obsidian floor. Within the Grand Council of the Galactic Assembly, a swirling vortex of alien forms and veiled entities grappled with a reality they struggled to comprehend, a threat that had manifested seemingly from the void itself: humanity. The air hung thick with the cloying scent of fear, a pheromonal echo of the anxieties that gnawed at the heart of the assembly. The shimmering, semi-corporeal form of the Xylar Prime, its multiple eyes darting across the worried faces of its peers, initiated the discussion with a voice that resonated like the grinding of tectonic plates. The reports continue to be disconcerting. The tactics of these Deathworlders defy all established norms of interstellar conflict. We have studied their past engagements, the data painstakingly gathered by the scouts. They attack everywhere, with little or no regard for casualties, for resources, or even for self-preservation. Its voice trailed off, a visible shudder rippling through its ethereal form. Around the grand table, made of a substance that seemed to absorb all light, the members of the council stirred with unease. The krill, their chitinous carapaces gleaming under the refracted light, clicked and hissed in agitation, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the chaos. The placid, jellyfish-like forms of the Aerolin pulsed with a slow, rhythmic beat, their translucent bodies subtly shifting colors in response to the tense atmosphere. The ambassador for the Cygnus Collective, a being of pure, solidified energy that could barely contain its restless energy, crackled with barely suppressed impatience. Disconcerting, Xylar Prime, you employ understatement. Their actions are barbaric. They employ strategies that are unfathomable. They disregard the established protocols, the rules of engagement that have governed interstellar warfare for millennia. They are a plague of unpredictable violence. We must find a way to contain them. The Cygnus Collective, known for its strategic ruthlessness, had already proposed a full-scale offensive. Contain them? A voice, metallic and precise, cut through the growing din. The representative of the Zidonian hegemony, a being of cold, calculating intellect, articulated its words with deliberate precision. Containment is a luxury we may not be able to afford. Their aggression, their relentless expansion, it is a tide, relentlessly consuming all in its path. We have already lost colonies, strategically vital systems. Our scouting fleets have been decimated. We face a potential extinction event. The Zidonian, clad in its elaborate obsidian armor, focused its multifaceted eyes on the other members of the council. We need solutions, practical ones. The words hung in the air, a tacit acknowledgement of the failures of the Assembly's current strategies. The room erupted in a cacophony of voices. The krill, their mandibles clicking in agitation, demanded immediate action. The Aerolin emitted a mournful, echoing sound, expressing their pacifistic fear. The Xylar Prime, its form shimmering erratically, struggled to regain control. "Order, order!" it boomed, its voice echoing through the chamber. "We will not be consumed by panic. We will analyze the data, formulate a strategy, and address this crisis with the full weight of the Assembly behind us." The chaos slowly subsided, replaced by a tense silence punctuated by the hum of the crystal dome. Months had passed since the first, ominous reports from the outer rim of the galaxy began filtering back to the Assembly. At first, the scouts had reported anomalous energy signatures, unexpected planetary disruptions, and the sudden, inexplicable disappearance of entire star systems. Then they had encountered the Deathworlders, the humans. The first encounters had been brief, brutal, and utterly devastating. The human vessels, crude and unremarkable in appearance, had possessed a ferocity that defied all expectation. Their weapons, though seemingly primitive, had delivered a destructive power that outmatched even the most advanced technology of the Assembly. Their tactics, if they could even be called tactics, were a chaotic blend of reckless abandon and cold, calculated ruthlessness. The humans showed no respect for the established rules of engagement. They attacked indiscriminately, targeting both military and civilian targets, causing widespread devastation. The Assembly had responded with predictable strategies, relying on established battle formations, defensive maneuvers, and calibrated aggression. They deployed their most formidable fleets, their most advanced weaponry, and their most experienced commanders. Yet each engagement ended in crushing defeat. The humans, unfazed by the Assembly's might, continued their relentless advance. They had carved a swathe of destruction across the galaxy, leaving a trail of shattered worlds and broken civilizations. The Council realized, with chilling certainty, that it was not dealing with a conventional enemy. The humans were different. The lead analyst of the assembly, a wizened old Volarian known as the Seer, had been tasked with understanding the Deathworlders. The Seer, with its encyclopedic knowledge of interstellar history and its uncanny ability to predict the behavior of other species, had spent countless cycles poring over the data, searching for clues, patterns, and weaknesses. It had studied the human homeworld, a planet named Earth, a planet of tumultuous oceans and volatile volcanoes, a planet that seemed to breed conflict and destruction. It had studied their history, their art, their literature, their religions, their wars. The Seer had come to a troubling conclusion. The humans were inherently unpredictable. Their actions were driven by a complex web of emotions, ideologies, and desires that were alien to the more rational, logical species of the assembly. The Seer's findings had been presented to the Council in a long, detailed report. It had described the human concept of war, a relentless, all-consuming conflict that permeated every aspect of their society. It had described their ruthless pragmatism, their willingness to sacrifice everything to achieve their goals. It had described their adaptability, their ability to learn and evolve at an astonishing rate, and it had warned of the dangers of underestimating them. The report had ended with a single, chilling conclusion. The humans will not be reasoned with, they will not be deterred, they will not be stopped unless they are destroyed. The debate continued for weeks, each meeting filled with increasingly grim assessments and increasingly desperate proposals. The Cygnus Collective called for a preemptive strike, a scorched earth campaign that would eradicate the human threat once and for all. The Aerolin, its gentle nature shattered by the horror of the conflict, pleaded for diplomacy, for a peaceful resolution. The Zidonian, its cold logic unyielding, advocated for a strategic retreat, a calculated withdrawal that would allow the assembly to regroup and formulate a more effective defense. Finally, after cycles of agonizing debate, the assembly reached a consensus. They would attempt to make contact. They would send an envoy, a diplomatic delegation, to the human homeworld. They would try to understand the Deathworlders, to learn their motivations, and to negotiate a peaceful resolution. The decision was not driven by hope, but by desperation. The Assembly's military might, its technological superiority, its strategic acumen had all failed. Their only hope was to understand their enemy, to find some common ground, some shared humanity. The envoy, a carefully selected group of ambassadors and specialists, departed for Earth. They were led by the Xylar Prime, who had reluctantly agreed to take on this difficult, perhaps impossible, task. Accompanying the Xylar Prime were representatives from the Cygnus Collective, the Aerolin, and the Zidonian hegemony, each of them bringing their own agendas, their own fears, and their own hopes. The journey was fraught with tension, a long, silent voyage into the unknown. They knew that their fate, and the fate of the entire galaxy, rested on their ability to understand the Deathworlders. When the envoy's ship broke through the atmosphere of Earth, the sight that greeted them was, in a word, chaotic. From the observation windows, the team witnessed a planet teeming with activity, a swirling tapestry of urban sprawl, vast oceans, and verdant landscapes. The surface was scarred by the evidence of a million conflicts, a history of bloodshed and destruction laid bare for all to see. The sky above was filled with the contrails of aircraft, a constant stream of movement. The air was thick with pollution, a testament to the planet's relentless industrialization. The envoy's ship landed at a designated site, a sprawling complex located near the human capital, a location where a delegation of human officials were waiting to receive them. The ship's ramp lowered, and the envoy emerged into the harsh sunlight. Their footsteps echoed on the smooth, polished surface as they advanced into the unknown. They were met by a group of humans, tall and imposing in their dark, tailored suits. Their faces were impassive, their eyes unreadable. They carried no weapons, but the air around them crackled with an underlying tension. The Xylar Prime, its multiple eyes scanning the human faces, addressed the leader of the human delegation. "We are representatives of the Galactic Assembly," it boomed, its voice echoing in the vast, sterile space. "We have come to establish contact, to understand your intentions, and to negotiate." The leader of the human delegation, a man with graying temples and a steely gaze, inclined his head slightly. "Welcome, ambassadors," he said, his voice calm and even. "We are honored to receive you." His words were courteous, but they carried a subtle undertone of something else. Confidence, defiance. The Xylar Prime could not quite put its finger on it. The human leader introduced himself as Director Evelyn Reed. He explained that a secure location had been prepared for their discussions, a place where they could meet in peace. He led the envoy into a sleek, modern structure, a building of polished steel and glass that seemed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. They were ushered into a conference room, a minimalist space dominated by a large, circular table. The room was sparsely furnished, but it was equipped with advanced communication technology, a stark contrast to the primitive technology they had seen on Earth. The human leader gestured to the chairs. "Please be seated," she said. "We have much to discuss." As the assembly representatives took their seats, Director Reed and her team settled down, their expressions giving nothing away. The initial negotiations were a delicate dance. The assembly representatives struggled to understand the human language, the nuances of their speech, the subtleties of their culture. The humans, in turn, seemed to take a detached, clinical approach to the discussions. They listened intently to the assembly's concerns, but they offered no reassurances, no promises. They asked questions, probing questions, that revealed a deep understanding of the assembly's vulnerabilities. The first few cycles were a series of tense exchanges, the humans displaying a remarkable calmness. The assembly representatives were baffled by the humans' lack of urgency, their unhurried demeanor in the face of imminent extinction. They discussed the war, the devastation the humans had caused. They discussed the death toll the colonies lost. They discussed the resources destroyed. Director Reed calmly listened and responded with precise, well-reasoned answers. She expressed sympathy, but she offered no apology. She acknowledged the conflict, but she did not take responsibility for it. The Cygnus collective representative, its energy form crackling with impatience, pressed the issue. "Why?" it demanded. "Why the destruction? Why the relentless aggression? What is your goal?" Director Reed paused for a moment, her gaze sweeping across the table. "Our goal," she said, "is survival." Her answer was simple, direct, and completely unexpected. "Survival?" the Zidonian representative echoed, its voice filled with skepticism. "But at what cost? You have destroyed countless worlds, decimated countless civilizations. Is this the price you are willing to pay?" "The price," Director Reed responded, her voice unwavering, "is the cost of survival. We have faced threats that you cannot even comprehend, threats that would have extinguished your species in a matter of moments." Over the next few days, the conversations delved deeper. The assembly representatives slowly began to understand the human perspective. They learned of the humans' history, of their struggles, their triumphs, and their tragedies. They learned of their fears, their hopes, and their aspirations. They learned of the threats that had shaped their civilization, the internal conflicts, the external dangers, and they began to understand the brutal logic of human war. Director Reed and her team began to reveal an unexpected aspect of human society, a commitment to ethical conduct. The humans explained their concept of the Geneva Conventions, international laws that sought to limit the horrors of war. They described their system of checks and balances, designed to prevent abuse of power. They spoke of the value of human life, even in the midst of conflict. The revelation was almost laughable. How could these beings, these seemingly savage Deathworlders, be bound by such idealistic concepts? But as the negotiations progressed, the assembly representatives observed that the humans were, in fact, abiding by those rules. The revelation of the humans' technology was another shock. Initially, the assembly assumed their technology was crude. Their ships were unsophisticated, their weapons seemingly primitive. Yet the humans' technology revealed itself to be far more advanced, in some ways even superior, than the assembly's own. They possessed advanced weapons systems, powerful energy shields, and rapid response defenses that the assembly's forces had been unable to penetrate. Their understanding of interstellar travel was also more advanced than anticipated. The humans, it turned out, were not just aggressive. They were also incredibly resourceful, capable of adapting and innovating at an astonishing rate. The climax of the negotiations came with a revelation that sent a chill through the assembled diplomats. Director Reed unveiled a vast network of automated defense systems, a network of satellites, orbital platforms, and hidden installations that spanned the entire solar system. The system, she explained, was designed to protect Earth from external threats. A demonstration was provided, and the assembly representatives witnessed a simulated attack. In moments, the human defensive network unleashed a devastating torrent of energy weapons, guided missiles, and interceptors that obliterated the attacking force, the scale of which had been deemed impossible by the assembly. "This is just a fraction of our defensive capabilities," Reed explained calmly. We have been monitoring the galaxy for centuries. We are aware of the threats that exist beyond our borders. We are prepared. The revelation of the human technology and the display of their defensive capabilities shifted the balance of power. The Assembly had come to negotiate with a species they believed to be barbaric, to contain a threat they believed they could control. But they were now faced with a reality they had not anticipated, a civilization far more powerful than they had imagined. The Assembly's representatives returned to the Grand Council with a new understanding of the human threat. They had witnessed the humans' strength, their resilience, and their surprising capacity for ethical behavior. They realized that the conflict could not be resolved through force. The humans could not be defeated. The only path forward was collaboration. The ensuing debate was no longer about containment or extermination. It was about survival, about finding a way to coexist with a species that defied all expectations. After further cycles of intense discussion, the Assembly took an unprecedented step. They formally proposed an alliance with humanity. They offered to share their knowledge, their resources, and their technology. They offered their protection. The response from Earth was swift and decisive. Humanity, represented by Director Reed and her team, accepted the alliance, but with conditions. The humans had made it clear that they would not be passive allies. They would be active participants in the defense of the galaxy, and they would hold the Assembly accountable for its actions. They would insist on transparency, on cooperation, and on shared responsibility. The Grand Council, initially reluctant, soon recognized the wisdom of the human conditions. They knew that their continued survival depended on the alliance. They agreed. The new era of the Galactic Assembly began. The humans, the Deathworlders, integrated themselves into the fabric of the galaxy. Their military strategies, their technological innovations, and their unwavering ethical standards began to shape the future of interstellar relations. The war ended. But the final twist was yet to come. A signal, an ancient signal originating from the edge of the galaxy, was detected by human and Assembly scouts. The signal, transmitted for eons, carried a message. The message, decoded by the human and Assembly scientists, revealed the existence of a vast, abandoned megastructure at the edge of the galaxy, a structure that was clearly artificial and of an unfathomable scale. It was a warning, a harbinger of a threat even greater than the humans had initially presented, an intergalactic predator. The message's final words, rendered in both human and Assembly languages, echoed in the minds of the Council members, a chill that froze the blood. They are coming. The war with the Deathworlders had been a trial by fire, a lesson in humility, and a catalyst for change. The humans, with their unpredictability, their ruthlessness, and their unwavering commitment to ethical principles, had become the galaxy's unexpected saviors. They had shown the Assembly that unity was forged not through fear, but through understanding. The Assembly, with the help of humanity, was now ready to face whatever lay ahead. But the future, as they knew, was never guaranteed. The galaxy was vast, and the universe held secrets that no one could possibly imagine. And the final question remained, could humanity and the Assembly survive the new threat? Only time would tell.